Stella, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Stella, you point out in the book that the modern world is far more difficult to understand than it was 50 years ago. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, 50 years ago, you could kind of understand how anything worked. Nowadays, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, internet, we don't actually understand the vast majority of how things work. And so kids kind of came into a kind of a consciousness by figuring out the radio or the car or whatever 50 years ago. There was a general kind of, most people could figure out how most things worked. These days it's too complex. You need a PhD to understand how the vast majority of things work. And so we're kind of relying on them out there, which is fine when it works, but when it doesn't work, I've just had my own problems with technology. It can be incredibly frustrating, and it can feel like there's forces out there and you've no control over it. And we've never had that. In the history of mankind, we've never had that. People could take apart things, put them together and fix them. And somebody in the family could do it generally. We can't do that now. We need the professionals, and we can just be up against the wall of technology. It's very frustrating. I think we underestimate tech rage, and I think it's actually very overwhelming.
I think there's another effect as well. Modern technology actually gives you the impression that you're being clever. You could be waiting for a bus and you message your mum and say, I'll be home in 10 minutes. Or, you pay a bill on your bank account on your phone or whatever. And the impression it gives you, you're a psychoanalyst, tell me if I'm right, the impression that technology gives you is that you are actually in control of your life and everything's running smoothly. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. We're feeling sharp, we're feeling with it, life is working well, until it doesn't. And then you get slammed into a wall of reality that actually you're not at all in control. You weren't really sure how all of that worked, these text messages and paying bills, but you were trusting the greater God out there, which has become technology. And when it doesn't work, it's frustrating and it makes us feel stupid. So while we feel clever when it works, we feel very stupid when it doesn't work. And
yeah,
it's a horrible feeling.
Oh, the ups and downs of modern life. But I mean, here is a great quote from your book. Young people today are given no indication that the adult world is attractive. Indeed, it feels impossibly complex and boring. As a result, kids are reluctant to grow up, of course, but Stella, I'd add to that many adults are not setting a very, very good example because they're postponing growing up themselves. Are these all signs that our culture has become a bit sick and misguided?
I think our culture has lost its way in many ways. There's lots of brilliant ways. I don't want to create some sort of moral panic, but there's a lot of needless distress. There's a lot of anxiety. An awful lot of young people don't have very much interest in growing up, and this has never happened before. But not only that, this is really the first generation where the children presume that they won't be richer than their parents. Every other generation, there was the natural order of things. You were going to do better than your parents. Wherever you came from, that was the kind of general presumption. Now that isn't a given anymore. Not only that, an awful lot of children, teenagers, young adults, they're just thinking it's too hard to be an adult. There's no fun. It's admin and it's bureaucracy. I remember when I opened my first bank account, I was 7. I was with my mother, went down, signed my name, thought I was as big as anything. And I felt a shot of power. I remembered. I just felt so cool that there was money in the account under my name. I remember I tried to give that gift to my children, and it was a crushing failure, where we went into the bank and then we had to go back out and we had to get, proof of address. Now, they live across the road. The bank is across the road from me. They knew exactly who I was and who my children were. But we had to go, it was 5 visits to the bank. Tedious form fills. My kids had become slack-jawed and completely uninterested in the entire process. There was no shot of power. There was no sign on the dotted line and off you go. It was impenetrable bureaucracy. Now, we all know why that is. That's because of fraud. But it means that certainly the kids had no interest in becoming an independent adult. It was just pain and hassle and bureaucracy and boring. So we kind of have created this sophisticated world, which when it works is great, and when it doesn't work is horrible.